Absa.
The Toyota 1000 Desert Race was again held in Botswana, the only round of the championship that is run outside of South Africa. 78 teams entered the three-day event, which promised to be a closely fought affair. Only 55 crews made it to the overnight stop, with Janelle de Villiers and Francois Jordan the leaders in the proudly South African Nissan Hardbody. They had almost 9 minutes in hand over teammates Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek, and were intent on winning their first Toyota 1000 Desert Race. But disaster was only seconds away. A motorist had strayed onto the race route, and the two vehicles collided at high speed. The proudly South African Nissan Hardbody was extensively damaged, and de Villiers injured his left arm. Teammates Grobler and Leek adopted a somewhat more cautious approach at the start.
Okay, we're straight on this road for 5Ks.
De Villiers limped back to the pits for repairs to the Nissan. Castrol Toyota crew Piet Haasbroek and Freddie Skeepers suddenly found themselves in second place, but almost an hour behind the leading Nissan. Damage to the proudly South African Nissan Hardbody was extensive and would take technicians 1.5 hours to repair.
500 meters up, is it?
Grobler and Leek had eased their pace dramatically, but still had more than an hour in hand over second place. Barring any unforeseen problems, the proudly South African Nissan crew looked to have the race and their 6th consecutive win in the bag. Weir Smith and Minute started 16th, got the better of Moore and Werner, and now had a comfortable lead in the special vehicle category. The Shell Connex Chenoweth of overnight leaders Moore and Werner were still consuming oil at an alarming rate, and was being hounded by Mark Renier and Chris Birkin in the Class E leading Castrol Toyota Hilux 2.7i. Shumi van Vuren and Carlos de Abreu had matters under control in the Class D leading Chibuku Toyota Land Cruiser, but GBS racing pair Hein Grobler and Gerard Prinsloo in the Nissan Hardbody was relentlessly stalking them. Class B leader Francois Smit put on a polished performance in the single-seater Franec. Despite using 70 litres of engine oil over 2 days of racing, the Atlas Copco Chicago pneumatic Jeep of Scott Abraham and Richard Carolyn was well on its way to a podium finish in Class T. The overgrown bush took its toll on the wide-tracked Jeep's body panels. But the drive of the event belonged to Morocco Rally winner Janelle de Villiers in the proudly South African Nissan Hardbody. He and Jordan had come from last to 9th on the road and were now 2nd overall on corrected time. Brothers Yuri and Andre Duplessis rounded out the top 10 in the Class E BB Auto Nissan Hardbody. With less than 80 kilometers to go, Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek could smell victory and a new record of 6 consecutive wins, while John Weir Smith and Jeff Minute had the special vehicle category win well within their grasp. There was huge fan support for local heroes Carlos de Abreu and Shumi van Vuren in the Class D winning Chibuku Toyota Land Cruiser. Castrol Toyota crew Mark Renier and Chris Birkin didn't put a wheel wrong all weekend, and the Class E win and valuable championship points were just reward for another giant-killing performance. 42-year-old Francois Smit drove a calculated race and took advantage of the misfortunes that befell his rivals to win Class B. Thousands of spectators welcomed Toyota 1000 Desert Race winners Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek at the finish in Gaborone. It was an historic win for the proudly South African Nissan team. 6 consecutive wins for Grobler and Leek, and 10 for the team.
It went fine. It's just a tough race, something I didn't expect, but turned out in the end it was okay. Yeah, absolutely. I'm just glad there's a year between the next one.
Absolutely fantastic. Really great race. Just a little bit tired, but we had to press hard. We had 25 minutes to catch up, so we'll see where we go.
Round 4 of the South African Off-Road Car Racing Championship presented by ABSA was the Oven Fresh Biscuits 500, which was held in the Mafeking area in the Northwest Province in July. Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek in the proudly South African Nissan Hardbody led the 500-kilometer event from start to finish to record their 7th consecutive overall victory in extremely dusty conditions. The pair extended their lead in the Production Vehicle Championship and took full advantage of their first position on the road to finish ahead of teammates Janelle de Villiers and Francois Jordan in a similar Class T vehicle. De Villiers and Jordan closed to within 30 seconds of their teammates, but a puncture finally saw them finish 3 minutes behind the winners. Neil Woolridge and Ken Schultheimer made a welcome return to the podium when they finished 3rd overall in the Class T Team Ford Racing Ranger. Cockpit air vents malfunctioned, which made conditions in the cockpit unbearably dusty, but a quick stop at the Midway service point rectified the problem. Schultheimer commented after the event that it was extremely difficult to overtake in the dusty conditions. Harpy Reyneke and Robin Houghton survived the puncture and steering problems to finish 4th overall in the Class T Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. They too were slowed by the dusty conditions. Nissan Dealer 400 Special Vehicle category winners Atang Makhegenene and Mike Stangl picked up their 2nd win of the season in the Sam Racing Jimco and crossed the line 5th. They were initially involved in a titanic battle with last year's race winner Gerard du Plessis and his wife Kobe in the Mobile Liber Jimco, who retired with gearbox problems at the midway point, and early category leaders Brandon Harkus and Gary Berthold in the bat. Cliff Barker and Vic Kampfer had a steady run in the MGM Motors Land Rover and finished 6th overall and 5th in the production vehicle category, while multiple off-road motorcycle champion Alfie Cox and Henny Tersteege did not put a wheel wrong all day and picked up a well-earned Class D win, their 2nd of the season, in the Arnold Chatz Cars Nissan Hardbody. Nissan Sugarbelt 400 Special Vehicle category winners Gerald Mundell and Billy Bond finished 9th overall and 3rd in the Special Vehicle category in the Prolong Bat, and were followed across the line by Marius van Vuren and Chris Marie in the Class D Alberanti Autospray Land Rover. The Class E win went to veteran Cassie Coetzee and Oki Fourie in the Castrol Toyota Hilux KZTE. Clint Gibson and Mike Brown in the Presidium Financial Services BAT picked up a maiden Class B win.
Vehicle didn't miss a beat, and the vehicle was unbelievable. Team did a great job, and we won it.
We never had any punches. We lost reverse gear. Thank God to the du Plessis. They stopped, they pushed us out, and they still let us go in front of them. I think that's pure sportsmanship. I'm very proud of them. They're very, very good people. They deserve to win every race.
The SA Off-Road Championship is proudly presented by ABSA.
The Queen Motorspares Tarka 400 marked the midway point in the season, which had so far been dominated by the seemingly invincible proudly South African Nissans. Toyota and Ford had last won events in 2001 and 2000 respectively. Former production vehicle champions Janelle de Villiers and Francois Jordan led from start to finish in the proudly South African Nissan hardbody to record their first production vehicle category win in 8 starts and extend Nissan's record to 12 consecutive victories. The battle in the production vehicle category was a nail-biting affair, with Neil Woolridge and Ken Scholtheimer in the Team 4 Racing Ranger involved in a race-long tussle with the Nissan crew throughout the 360-kilometer main event. At one stage, they closed to within 22 seconds of the leaders when they stopped to replace a flat wheel in an amazing 1 minute and 38 seconds. Api Reinecke and Robin Houghton finished third overall in a Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser, but were slowed on lap 1 when a steering wheel boss came loose, necessitating a lengthy repair at the midway point. This allowed production vehicle championship leaders and winners of the past 7 events, Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek, and teammates Duncan Foss and Mike Griffith, who started 41st and 42nd respectively after picking up problems in the prologue on Friday, to come within striking distance of the Toyota crew. Class E championship leaders Mark Cronje and Chris Durkin had a clean run in the Castrol Toyota Hilux 2.7i and finished 6th overall and 1st in Class E. Scott Abraham and Richard Carolan started 51st after getting stuck in a donga during the prologue on Friday and went on to finish 7th overall and 5th in Class T in the Atlas Copco Chicago pneumatic Jeep. Father and son, Cliff and Louis Weichelt, finished 8th overall and won Class D in the N1 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser, but were plagued by punctures, while Kasi Kutsia and Oki Fourie started last after the Castrol Toyota Hilux KZTE overheated during the prologue, but carved their way through the field to finish 9th overall and 2nd in Class E, ahead of Hannes Steyn and Ferry Seegers, to make it a Toyota 1-2-3. Top Car managing editor Dion Skuman and Jeremy Fall had a faultless race in the Top Car Ferrodo Nissan hardbody and finished 2nd in Class D and 11th overall. Father and son Johan and Martinez van den Merwe finished 3rd in Class D in the Shivani Colt Rodeo. Andre Botha and Beens Heidenrich were the only entrants in Class F for 2-wheel drive unlimited super trucks and soldiered on to a maiden class win in the O'Hagan's Kopanong Hotel Super Team Chevrolet. The special vehicle category was just as closely contested as the production vehicle category. Special vehicle category overall winners Brandon Harkes and Gary Berthold couldn't afford to ease their pace at all because they had a horde of challengers hot on their tail in the early stage of the race. But as luck would have it, the challengers would one by one fall by the wayside. The first to go were John Ware-Smith and Jeff Minnett, who broke a side shaft on the O'Hagan's Kopanong Hotel Super Team Jimco a few kilometers from the start. They managed to replace the side shaft, but later mistimed a jump, and the Jimco launched 3 stories high and flew for 75 meters before crash landing. The impact destroyed the rear end of the Jimco. Nissan Dealer 400 and Oven Fresh Biscuits 500 winners Atang Makgegenene and Mike Stangl were well placed in the Total Sam Racing Jimco, but engine problems within sight of the midway service point forced them into retirement. Husband and wife Gerrit and Kobe du Plessis also didn't make it to the end of the first lap when a broken oil pipe on the Liebherr Jimco sheared, and they decided to retire rather than cause expensive damage to the Porsche engine. John Moore and Fred Werner in the Shell Connex Chenoweth and Mark Corbett and Jason Brouwer in the Century Property Development's BAT took up the challenge, but also succumbed to the tough conditions. Both vehicles retired with gearbox problems. Event sponsor Greg Harvey and Daniel Ford in the Queen Motorspares Jimco took advantage of the problems that befell their rivals and finished a solid 2nd overall, while newcomers to the sport Nick Gosler and Warren Bowie finished 3rd overall and 1st in Class S in the O'Hagan's Kopanong Hotel Super Team Raceco to extend their lead in the Class S Championship over Mohamed Noor and Mohamed Molson in the Super Veg Raceco, who finished 7th overall and 2nd in Class S. Clint Gibson and Mike Brown finished 4th overall and scored their 2nd consecutive Class B win in the Presidium Financial Services bat. Terence Marsh and Trevor Ayer in the Nashua Mobile Racing Jimco were happy to finish 5th overall and 3rd in Class A. They were followed across the line by Giel Nel in the Class B Look Africa Truggy, whose performance put him back at the top of the Special Vehicle Championship log, ahead of Gerald Mandel and Billy Bond in the Prolong Bat, who lost time with an onboard fire.
I think it's been 6 or 7 or 8 months since I've last won a race, so it's definitely the best way to do it. And I'm very happy for Nissan and for the team, because the guys worked very hard last night. We had a few small problems, but in the end it paid off today, and I'm very happy for them.
I tell you what, I've been racing these vehicles for going on 2 years now, and this is really well deserved by BAT. I think Brandon Harkis has done an absolutely sterling job, not only of building the car, but we shared the drove this morning, and it was really a great day out there. This vehicle is absolutely phenomenal, and I'm glad that the South Africans have done it, and my hat's off to Brandon Harkis. Well done for the good hard work you've put in, and tremendous result.
From the Eastern Cape